I wanted to ask also about the work of Stephen Galloway. His piece is behind you, large format. They're photographs of moss. Stand back on camera. Explain that a little bit.
I will. Okay. Stephen has a really unique process. Similarly to young Kim, he's collecting plant material and bringing it to a studio. But almost everything about what Stephen does is a little on the assertive side, and I would say Young's is on the delicate side. So Stephen is actually, he might be in the Sierras, really out there in the woods collecting the material, bringing it back to a studio, and he arranges it on a light box that's on his floor.
So it's a backlit light box.
It's backlit,
okay.
Exactly. So he's making these compositions of the material there, and then he's using a scaffolding to photograph it from above. And
so he's building a scaffolding around and then getting on top and photographing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, a little more assertion here.
Yes.
It takes a little more effort.
Yes.
And as you can tell, the photographs are quite large. So
now, is that to scale or are they?
Yes, they tend to be almost exactly life size.
Okay.
And that's part of his interest, is trying to really present nature as it is, as closely as possible. So the scan back camera comes in to achieve that. It is a special camera that is actually scanning the image the way you have a flatbed scanner.
Right.
But it's doing it within the camera.
Very
It becomes a
interesting.
digital image, and it's extremely high resolution.
Yes.
So with the new technologies like that, Stephen was able to achieve what he's been trying to achieve for a long time. And he also doesn't do really fancy tricks with lighting and blurring. He really just wants to present what you might find if you came across this material out there in nature. Now there's sort of a twist to that, in that the way that he's composing them is something that would never ever occur in nature.
Not likely.
Right. So it's sort of that tension between those two. And then
but it doesn't look forced. Even though you know that it's been arranged, it's very in the imagination it works.
Yes. And
it doesn't seem contrived, is what I'm trying to say.
I think that's probably the hardest part of his job. Because it is very meticulously done, and yet he doesn't want it to seem contrived.
Right.
And I think a sort of counterpoint to him might be Andy Goldsworthy, who we're more familiar with doing sort of grandiose gestures out in nature with natural materials, and then documenting them. And it's sort of astounding that he could do that with natural materials. And yet Stephen's just trying to present it as though it were always there.
Right.
And with, like you said, without drawing attention to his technique.
Right. The personality is not overbearing, and that just would be found in nature.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And just a bit about this mounting process, how it's...
Well, these, as with Penny Olson's, are printed on paper, but they both have chosen to face mount them to plexiglass. So essentially, in Stephen's case, on the face is plexiglass, and behind it is aluminum. Uh-huh. And they have a cleat system, so they actually float off the wall.
Right, I was noticing that, yes.
So there's a few things that they probably were trying to achieve, and that's, I think, increase the luminosity, because the light is actually traveling through that layer of plexiglass.
Right. And sort of bounces back to the viewer. Right.
So it kind of really creates this luminous quality. And also there's no need for framing, so the image goes to the edge.
Right.
And so it becomes a little bit more like an object, sort of a sculptural experience.
Yes. Yeah. Chandra, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
You're welcome. I'm so glad you could. Thank you.